federal election. The imperial perspective.
Landing gear retracted.
As the Federation readies itself for a new president, the Empire is preparing for potential changes to its relationship with its historical rival. Last year, Emperor Arison Lavany Duval severed all official collaboration with the other superpowers, except for limited contributions to Aegis. But this does not mean the Empire is ignoring the potential impact of either Jerome Archer or Felicia Winters becoming the next federal president. Senator Denton Patrias remarked on the election during a military parade through the city of Port Isabel. The Federation's leaders always reinforce their popularity by framing the Empire as the great enemy. I expect Archer will have those same aggressive
Frameshift drive charging.
tendencies. In truth,
All clear. Have a safe trip, Commander.
I'd prefer to deal with that predictable approach, since Winters is clearly the more cunning and deceitful.
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
Candidate. Princess Aisling Duval was asked her opinion while visiting a xenology seminar hosted by the Achenar Research Council. I must admit that Felicia Winters' style of governance is more appealing, though she should be mindful of her running mate's influence. But whoever becomes president must break the cycle of hostility between Empire and Federation. My fruitful collaboration with other Aegis delegates and ACT's success against the Neo-Marlinist Liberation Army is evidence of how effective
Frameshift drive charging.
a superpower cooperation can be. The election was also discussed by Cassia Carvalho, political journalist for the Imperial Herald. The average Imperial citizen has little interest in the Federation.
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
Internal workings, but anxiety in the Senate is high. With the Thargoid War still raging, the prospect of a new president seeking to stamp their authority on the interstellar stage is a major concern. Conversely, some captains of industry anticipate a new era of trade with a friendlier federation if the Emperor can be convinced to rescind her isolationist decree. Voting within federal systems has been running for 24 hours, and polling suggests Felicia Winters holds a slight lead over Jerome Archer. The election will run for another 3 days.
Frameshift drive charging.
Sol celebrations end as election begins. Pilots Federation alert. The Federation has begun voting to decide its next president as a week of festivities in the
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
system are concluded. Congress confirmed that any pilots who supplied rare goods for the celebratory events can collect payment from the Qingzhou starport. All temporary system permits for Seoul remain suspended for pilots Federation members for a further week. The 3,309 presidential election has now officially begun. More than 1 trillion federal citizens are expected to submit their votes, which will be recorded and collated over the next 4 days via secure digital systems. Vice President Jerome Archer is the Republican Party candidate who is widely perceived as the political heir to President Zachary Hudson. His running mate is Congressman Nico Shirakawa, who has strong connections within the military. Shadow President Felicia Winters, leader of the Liberal Party, is the rival candidate and a proponent of more humanitarian-focused policies. She is on a presidential ticket with Congressman Isolde Rochester, matriarch of the famous Rochester dynasty. Sophia Trevino, political correspondent for the Federal Times, commented, "Following months of delay, logistical issues caused by the Thargoid War, plus the drama surrounding Zachary Rackham, voting is finally underway. Analysts believe this could be one of the closest-run elections in the Federation's history, reflecting the polarization that has taken place in recent years. Support for the Republican Party has been bolstered by its increasingly successful handling of the Thargoid menace during the past 6 months. But Archer's flagship creation, the Proactive Detection Bureau, remains highly divisive, something the Liberal Party has found success in using to frame its opponent as increasingly authoritarian. How these primary points will ultimately impact the outcome of the vote remains to be seen. The new president will be announced on Monday, 16th October. President Hudson will remain in office as caretaker president until the official inauguration of the election winner, expected to take place in the new year. First captives freed from Thargoid Titans. The first humans rescued from the Thargoid motherships have started to arrive, almost all of whom have so far survived extraction. The highly dangerous task requires using an upgraded pulse wave scanner to detect human life sign.
Gudamaya, Juliet, Uniform, November. Submit a docking request, and a landing pad will be reserved for you, Commander.
On the Titans, the new subsurface extraction missiles that
Okay, Commander. Land on pad 10. Assisted docking initiated.
and jettison the biostorage capsules as the structures are officially designated, which are then recovered using a cargo scoop. All recovered individuals are being assessed by medical specialists. The Tri-Superpower Agency Aegis released this statement to the media. In each case, research teams successfully cracked open the capsules and removed the comatose person. They were suspended within a chemically complex gel, not unlike amniotic fluid, with tubes supplying breathable air and basic nutrients. Between 30 and 90 minutes later, the person wakes. All recovered individuals are currently being kept in strict medical quarantine under military guard. Molecular scans are being conducted to ensure that no traces of Thargoid material remains, and a period of long-term observation now begins. Drive Himari Gray, an independent healthcare analyst, was permitted to observe these procedures. As part of a report in the Empirical Scientific Journal, she noted, "The former abductees I have seen looked physically healthy and returned to consciousness easily. Most remembered little about their abduction, though several mentioned an overwhelming urge to escape their ship prior to blacking out. Some described being semi-aware of their time in stasis, saying it felt like an extended dream. Others were in a state of shock or showed signs of psychological trauma, understandably, considering the nightmarish circumstances. The capsules are clearly designed to sustain oxygen-breathing life forms indefinitely, protected from the vacuum of space and the Thargoid's ammonia-based environment. But what the aliens intended to use these people for remains unknown. Aegis later stated that identities are being logged and will soon be made public, with the hope that families and friends will be able to visit. Scientists study Thargoid barnacle matrix sites. Aegis xenologists are focusing their efforts on the mysterious alien growths reported on multiple planets and moons in the Trianguli sector. These have been designated Thargoid barnacle matrix sites due to their resemblance to the barnacles that produce meta-alloys, but are far greater in size and complexity. Commander Yosulin Aquino described visiting one of these sites to Vox Galactica. "This wasn't an easy place to explore, since I had to avoid revenant drones and the occasional Thargoid scout. Once I did get up close, I found it unsettling as all hell."
Cargo hold at maximum capacity.
Each barnacle clump was a mound-like structure over a kilometer across, with several rounded peaks. Spaced around these were weird coral trees, which squeeze out a caustic sap-like stuff and dropped bizarre-looking fruits. What really made me nervous were the spear roots in the middle of the site.
Landing gear retracted.
They're made of some toughened substance in a sort of station regulations on gigantic skeletal fingers reaching up through the ground. If you ask me, these things are alive in some way. The noises my audio converter picked up made me feel like they were moving, closing around me to drag me down. Professor Seamus Madigan, Federal Scientific Liaison to Aegis, published a project update. Barnacle matrix sites emit a significant amount of electromagnetic interference which, coupled with aggressive Thargoid defenders, has prevented a detailed underground analysis. However, Aegis is now devoting extra resources to investigate why these organic structures exist. I can report that geological sensors have detected vibrations resulting from subsurface activity, with occasional quakes rippling across the ground. This suggests that violent chemical or physical processes are taking place internally. The prevailing theory is that these sites are still not completely formed, but we cannot yet determine their nature or purpose. Celebrations in Seoul for federal election. Pilots Federation alert. A series of public events to celebrate the forthcoming presidential election are being held in the Seoul system. Congress approved a request by President Zachary Hudson to finance a range of festivities, concerts and shows
Scan detected.
across the home system of the Federation. Millions of people are expected to attend, leading to a request for supplies of crystalline spheres, Eurasian goose beer, Indie bourbon, LTT Hypersweet and Pantar prayer sticks to be delivered to Li Qingjiao starport in orbit over planet Earth. Congress also agreed to authorize
Frameshift drive charging.
temporary
Clear the station for it.
Federation members to access the Sol system. President Hudson announced the events across all federal news channels, where he said, "Now we approach the
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
time, as determined centuries ago by the federal accord of our civilization's most profound tradition, the peaceful transfer of power. I have been deeply honored to serve as your president for the past 8 years. And you, the people of the galaxy's largest ever democracy, deserve to celebrate all that we have accomplished together. Vox Galactica's political journalist Conrad Sterling observed, "This is clearly a high-profile attempt to boost public morale, one that allows President Hudson to
Frameshift drive charging.
leave office on a positive note. Political critics are viewing it as a way to distract the citizens from the prolonged Thargoid War, the recent Rackham scandal, and various other challenges besetting the Federation."
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
But the eagerness of most citizens to embrace the sentiment proves one fact remains true. Everyone loves a party. Voting will open next Thursday for federal citizens to choose either Vice President Jerome Archer or Shadow President Felicia Winters as their next president. The election winner will be announced at the start of the following week. Aegis produces subsurface extraction missiles. Pilots Federation alert. Rescue megaships now stock Aegis's modified mining tool, designed to extract biostorage capsules from Thargoid Titans. The subsurface extraction
Frameshift drive charging.
missiles went into rapid production following a delivery initiative in the Senlu system. Aegis has confirmed that pilots who transported CMM composites, neofabric insulation and osmium to
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
Springer Gateway can now collect their rewards. Bounty vouchers for all wanted ships destroyed during the past week will also be redeemed at the same location. Aid and Talon discuss tactics for using the new module. These specialized devices are designed to be used alongside the pulse-wave xenoscanner, which can now pinpoint human life signs beneath the hull of a Titan. If accurately targeted, an extraction missile should penetrate far enough into the outer hull to jettison the pod-like structures containing captives. Assuming
Frameshift drive charging.
the extraction is successful, these capsules can then be taken on board via cargo scoop. All pilots who achieve this should deliver recovered capsules to the nearest search and rescue contact. Aegis
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
has provided instructions to medical and military teams standing by at these locations. These personnel will place capsules into high-security quarantine before attempting to revive the occupants. Once again, I remind pilots to outfit their ships to deal with the Maelstrom's caustic effects, defensive barriers and Thargoid patrols. Deploying the extraction missiles might also trigger counterattacks from the Titans themselves. These are perhaps the most dangerous rescue missions ever attempted, but I am confident that we can bring many of our people home. The first wave of ships equipped with subsurface extraction missiles are already making their initial forays into the Maelstroms. The future of the throne. The Imperial Senate has formally raised the issue that Emperor Arisa Lavany Duval has not yet produced any direct heirs. The debate was instigated by Senator Lysandra Corsell. The continuation of the Duval bloodline has formed the linchpin of our society for over 1,000 years. But it has been 8 years since Arisa Lavany Duval became our ruler. In that time there has been no spouse or consort, no indications of marriage, and no biological heir to the throne. We politely remind the Emperor of her duty to ensure the line of succession. Following a highly spirited exchange among senators, Chancellor Anders Blaine proclaimed, "Her Majesty has sacrificed much for the Empire. It is not our place to question her personal choices, but rather to support her vision for our prosperity and security." Gudrun Vesterkor, royal correspondent for the Imperial Herald, analyzed the situation. This is a delicate subject, but one of enormous importance. The Imperial Mother's recent illness has brought into focus the passing of the torch through each generation of Duvals. Every emperor of the last 1,000 years has had one or more children. The public has a certain expectation that an emperor will produce healthy heirs to continue the Duval line, and each new birth is proudly celebrated across the empire. However, there has never been any indication that Arisa has a partner or entertains marriage prospects of any kind. Princess Aisling Duval's romantic liaisons, including, famously, a federal ambassador, took the media spotlight for years. Hadrian Duval is married with a baby son, and others such as Archduke Otto Lombardo Duval have multiple offspring. But Her Majesty seems content to rule alone. Senator Corsell has raised a valid question. How long can this continue? And if Arisa remains childless, who will be the next emperor? Deliver resources for extraction missile manufacture. Pilots Federation alert. Aegis has requested materials to construct subsurface extraction missiles that recover imprisoned humans from the Titans. Professor Albert Tesro, head of Aegis, announced. Using blueprints provided by Sirius Corporation, engineering teams have worked around the clock to modify subsurface displacement munitions. These adaptations enable the projectile.
Our carrier respects careful pilots. Watch your speed at that.
To breach sections of the Titan's hulls and jettison the biostorage capsules embedded within. We could spend the next few months in a testing cycle.
Access granted. Please follow standard docking protocols, Commander.
Ideally,
Docking request confirmed. Assisted approach is go.
be the case, but lives are at risk and we can't be sure how much time our missing have. Therefore, we have approved mass production of these subsurface extraction missiles. Industrial materials are urgently needed to establish assembly centers so that we can distribute them as rapidly as possible. Princess Aisling Deval, who is coordinating the Empire's involvement with Aegis, transmitted a personal message. My heart goes out to the families and friends of the millions unaccounted for following the Thargoid invasions. But I urge you all to hold on to the hope of seeing your loved ones again. With this breakthrough, we finally have a chance to rescue some of those poor souls. Nobody doubts that this will be dangerous, and yet if this war has proved anything, it's that we can rise to any challenge when we work together. Aegis has requested shipments of CM&M composites, neofabric insulation and osmium to be delivered to Spring
Landing gear deployed.
gateway in the Sendu system. To protect transports, bounty vouchers for all wanted ships in the system will be redeemed by the Green Party of Sendu. Thargoid War Update. September 3309. The race is on to develop technology which can recover humans from Thargoid Titans, reports Vox Galactica journalist Jade Sanderson. Now we know the stomach-churning truth. The Thargoids are keeping people they abduct alive. The dramatic link of a high-level conversation within Aegis confirmed that Thargoid tactics had shifted to incorporate the mass abduction of humans. Seo Jin A's telepathic connection to the aliens revealed that captives are being stored inside.
We've got you safe and sound. Clamps engaged. Welcome, Commander.
Pod-like structures aboard the Titans. She also sensed that the Thargoids considered these captives an important part of their invasion plan. Aegis took these visions seriously, releasing an update to the Pulsewave Xeno scanner that was designed to test her hypothesis. Sure enough, those pilots who dared make a close approach to the Thargoid motherships detected human life signs beneath their hulls. This is where civilians from conquered systems are being held. For what purpose? We scarcely dare imagine. Demands to save these people from their unknown fate have rippled across every inhabited world. To their credit, the three superpowers have empowered Aegis to make this its top priority. Even Sirius Corporation has offered assistance, sharing designs for a modified subsurface displacement missile that might be capable of extracting these pods from within the Titans. Time is of the essence, since not even Seo Jin A knows for certain what the Thargoid intentions are for the prisoners. From the side
Landing gear retracted.
Ship
the general public, there is
Departure
enormous
confirmed.
speculation. What state will the captives be in, assuming they can be recovered alive? Will they even be recognizably human? Some xenologists claim that the life support chambers, to protect humans from the Thargoid's toxic atmosphere, mean a stable physical condition is probably. But whether this is a necessity of their capture methods or an intentional step in a broader process remains unclear. Meanwhile, anti-Xeno forces continue to achieve impressive results. The number of Thargoid-controlled systems has reduced significantly from only 3 months ago. Alien fleets are apparently struggling to expand their territory, with organized system defenses supported by the Pilots Federation preventing the loss of new systems. What seemed like a near hopeless task when the Maelstroms arrived has become a shining example of human courage and determination for future generations. This is Jade Sanderlin for Vox Galactica.
Speed restrictions have been lifted. Best of luck, Commander.
Stay safe out there. Aegis resolves to free abductees from Titans. With human life signs now confirmed beneath the hulls of the Thargoid Titans.
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
The urgency to mount a rescue mission has intensified. Many pilots equipped with the updated pulse wave xenoscanner detected signals that match living humans on every Titan mothership. As a result, Aegis has prioritized finding a way to recover the abducted. A potential solution has emerged, reportedly via a low-ranking engineer within Sirius Corporation. Director Ivano Columbera, the
Frameshift drive charging.
Empire's scientific liaison to Aegis, explained. The Yong Rui has shared Sirius Corporation's projects to counter Thargoid abductions, and this has accelerated our work. Among their research was
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
blueprint that repurposes subsurface displacement missiles, a commonly used mining tool, to breach Thargoid vessels and expose captured escape pods. These missiles were originally designed to extract mineral deposits from within asteroids without causing its destruction. Our consensus is that with some modifications, they could be deployed to target the human storage chambers within the Titan and retrieve the captives safely. Aidan Tanner discussed the approach with cautious optimism. This could be the non-lethal rescue method we've been
Frameshift drive charging.
searching for. However, these missiles are intended for minerals, not people, and Thargoid technology is poorly understood. We must ensure that we won't inadvertently harm those we're trying to save.
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
And prevent an aggressive reaction from the Titans themselves if possible. Aegis confirmed that it has begun manufacturing prototype subsurface missiles capable of penetrating the Titan's outer hulls. Further developments are expected to be announced shortly. Rackham withdraws from presidential election. Zachary Rackham has officially ended his election campaign following the discovery of evidence that supported claims of his criminal past. Federal Times journalist Brianna Blanco published the results of an investigation by the Wall Glass Investigations Agency, which included a message archive found on Zeta Trianguli Australis, a 7A. These findings strongly support a long-standing rumor that the trillionaire operated as notorious pirate Lord Calicozac prior to inheriting his family's wealth. PR consultant Anya Blackriver delivered a statement. In her role as campaign manager, Mr. Rackham has decided that these attempts at defamation are a regrettable distraction from his election campaign. His amused tolerance of the nickname Calicozac - a nickname assigned to him by the media, I should point out, is not an admission of any true link to that despicable outlaw. Rather than allow the race for the federal presidency to be clouded by these ridiculous claims, Mr. Rackham's legal team has advised a focus on defending his good name away from the spotlight. This announcement came a day after Congressman Harlan Turk formally resigned from his role as Zachary Rackham's running mate. He will continue representing the Duanta system as an independent. Federation correspondent Patricia Chen reported on the situation for Vox Galactica. There is speculation Rackham was warned that any further revelations could render him unelectable to the majority and open to criminal charges. While the Federal Times piece is mostly based on circumstantial evidence at this stage, Rackham's willingness to concede his claim to the presidency suggests a nervousness towards deeper dives into his past. His business portfolio has also been severely damaged, causing billions of losses in share price. Investors and corporate partners are avoiding any association with the man who may once have been Calicozac. Both of his political rivals welcomed the news. Nobody with even a hint of criminality deserves a position of such significant power, remarked former FIA Director Jerome Archer, while Felicia Winters agreed it was best that Rackham stands aside to let the grown-ups do their work. The electoral race is now evenly balanced between the two, with voting scheduled to take place in October. wall glass links Rackham to Calico Zack. The Federal Times has published evidence that trillionaire and presidential candidate Zachary Rackham was once the pirate lord Calico Zack. The newsfeed featured a detailed expose by financial journalist Brianna Blanco. The wall glass...
Gudemaya, Juliet, Uniform, November. Welcome to this federal facility. Please observe all standard docking procedures. Okay, Commander, make your way to landing pad
my long-held
17.
suspicion
Assisted docking initiated.
about Zachary Rackham's past. With the timely assistance of independent pilots, we have unearthed a message archive concealed in the Zeta Trianguli Australis system. This was created as insurance by a pirate named Angelo DeFries. Wallglass's analysis revealed that DeFries learned of Zachary Rackham's alter ego over 16 years ago, and threatened to transmit evidence to several news feeds, including, ironically, us here at the Federal Times. While DeFries seems to have disappeared around 3992 with his evidence withheld, conversations from that period were traced to the Wishbone Point facility. Wallglass, in conjunction with volunteer pilots, tracked down and decrypted the damning logs. This vindicates my many years investigating Rackham's criminal activities and corruption. More importantly, we have proved that the Federation is at risk of electing a pirate lord as its president. Vox Galactica reporter Patricia Chen covered the story. Mr. Rackham strenuously denied these allegations, stating that he always tolerated
Landing gear deployed.
being associated with a mythical figure as it gave him an aura of danger that was useful in boardroom meetings. His devoted followers say that the evidence was manufactured for Wallglass to find, and that Brianna Blanco is secretly funded by either Jerome
Contact. Deploying ground crew.
or Felicia Winters. However, high-profile supporters such as business magnates Randolph Plaskett and icecaster Sura Arikon have publicly withdrawn their support.
Cargo hold at maximum capacity.
Don't do it! There are too many zombies out there! Don't try to stop me!
Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
We always kind of had this joke that it couldn't be done. It's just a lot of game. The fact that it is an open world sandbox MMO where everyone is playing together. This was completely unprecedented. You just had components and pieces on the shop floor. And like, will this ever add to an experience that anyone wants to have? When your plan is to go to the moon and nobody has gone to the moon. When you're doing something that nobody has done before, you always have the anxiety of, well, maybe there's a reason nobody has done it. Maybe it just can't be done. You don't believe it until it happens. At the time, there was not a lot going on in Iceland. I started doing, well, I guess game development, but it wasn't exactly that. In '96, there was a company in Iceland called OS Interactive. They were making VRML worlds. VRML stands for Virtual Reality Modeling Language. It was supposed to be the 3D version of the internet, like HTML, except for VR. But we kind of, through that period, found out this was probably 50 years too early. We're now 25 years since, so there's probably 25 years more until that would become a thing. So a few of us decided to do something practical. Practical to us was the first video game ever made in Iceland, and make it a space MMO. That was our version of practical. We had all been excited about space games ever since playing Elite, Wing Commander, Privateer, etc. So from the VRML company we worked at before, we had learned a lot about like building scalable server tech, distributed computing, 3D rendering. So when it came to where will our experience give us an advantage, then being multiplayer was a good criteria. We already have been doing that for many years. Being at scale was another thing. So rather than making an MMO with different shards, we wanted to go for having everyone play the same game. We were greatly inspired by first kind of MUDs, which are multi-user dungeons in text, mostly made from computers from the 90s, and Ultima Online, especially on the social side, and the death penalty, and kind of the sandbox nature of Ultima. We wanted to at least meet Ultima at that level, and then exceed due to the fact that everyone's playing the same game. It's not broken into different shards. The theory was by doing that, we would have even more social drama and elimination of death, and I could say we achieved that to some extent.
The single shard mechanism of EVE Online is unique in the sense that it's not like other MMOs that have realms or other servers, and you usually have to go say, hey, I want to play with you in World of Warcraft, which server are you playing on, those kind of things, and you have to coordinate that piece. With EVE, there is just the Tranquility server. It is the public server that everyone plays on. There are different parts of EVE that are isolated, and there's a certain scaling mechanism behind that and how you deal with that. But ultimately, it also means that everyone can say, hey, we're all going to meet up at this one spot, and we have to deal with the fact that 9,000 players show up in the same place and want to actually have a battle.
In hindsight, it maybe was even a benefit that we weren't making a lot of traditional games before. Classical game developers, games were largely single-player games with multiplayer features. And when you make a single-player game with a multiplayer feature, it's a very different architecture and very different mythology, how you do that. We wanted to make sure the game looked as cinematic as possible. And at the time, it wasn't really reasonable to do anything but a space game. And that is largely because when you're making a space game, it's just empty. You can really focus your budget on the things that matter. When many people have said that EVE is a very different game, and it's different largely because it's not really made by game developers. It's made by computer architects, physicists, economists, artists, etc. But we were kind of a natively born MMO team, probably even the first. The prototype of EVE Online kind of existed in two worlds. One was the 3D engine and the editor where we were making the graphics and all the content, and they always looked amazing. Then we had the actual game, which was focused on scaling the technology for the backend, client-server communications, and that always looked terrible. Initial versions of that were actually 2D. We could prove out most of the architecture decisions just by using a 2D client. There was like this standing joke on the floor from the creative director of EVE Online of just, hey Hilmar, it was supposed to be 3D, like that was clear. Because we were a small team, the entirety of the company is about 35 people. We relied a lot on either procedural techniques, where we would computers build as much of the content as possible. The asteroids, the planets, etc. I mean, there's a lot of handcrafting that goes into making components, but at least initially, most of them were procedurally distributed and assigned into the world. We also did like things like procedural mission system that in runtime generates new missions based on various criteria. And then the principle of emergence. Like we would make sort of atomic units that could be leveraged into different structures by players into something different than we thought. That is in a way either pushing the work of making the game onto computers or onto the players themselves. You see that, for example, in the landscape of EVE. EVE is about 5,000 solar systems, hundreds of thousands of planets and moons on top of it. And all of this was generated by like a big bang simulation formula. This obviously has a lot of good aspects to it, but it also has downsides. You have way less control in the outcome, and often the outcome can be confusing. So we direct experiences inside the sandbox of EVE Online. So optimizing for a certain topology of the world such that when you add players to it, it would be inducive to create conflict and drama. Having the resources of the world distributed so that no single part of the world would be self-sufficient. So people would either have to collaborate or go to war to take territory from others. So a lot of the things that really build towards EVE's longevity were these kind of things.
As horrible as it sounds, part of our job is to instill fear, paranoia, and hatred. Because of the nature of the game, you almost have to have these feelings. If I destroy some stuff from you, I actually take it away from you. You know, it doesn't magically respawn. I am actually taking something away from you. So back then, it was just much more chaotic, especially in the first weeks, months when we're trying to sort of running out the first banking system, I suppose. You sort of have to, there were no checks in place. But you know, those got fixed pretty early on.
So there was a lot of these kind of constraints we had to build around. It kind of boggles the mind in hindsight how a team of 30 people could really have put all this together. But a lot of it was just like working insane hours. There were people pulling 100-hour weeks back to back for almost 3 years. And EVE Online ensued. We were making a demo to go to E3 2002. And there was a lot of anxiety around the game and having a lot of anxiety of, like, is this really ever going to come together? Some of it was the actual assembling of it, but it was more just what is the experience of playing a game like that when the individual components are maybe not like something you can really stand up on their own. Mining, for example, like sitting alone by an asteroid mining, you just sit and drag from your cargo hold into the cargo container, hanging out in space. It's not the most engaging gameplay you could ever have if you're just doing that in isolation. The game is so vast, there are so many features that each and every single one of them could all benefit from a bit of a polish. So when you look at them in isolation, you would question, is this a game experience that people want to have? We had kind of pulled together with a lot of shortcuts, a version of the game that didn't scale, wasn't properly put together. We took all the shortcuts possible, focused on the experience. I think we called the version Emerald, did this kind of internal releases that all had kind of romantic names. And that was the version where it really sort of came together. It had all the main components of the game. You could go into a belt, mine, you could find NPCs in that belt, other players could come and disrupt you, you could fly back to a space station, you could reprocess your ore, you could take the minerals, you can build a new spaceship, you could take the spaceship and sell it on the market. This is kind of the core loop of EVE Online. And that all came together and looked amazingly good. It looked like science fiction. Like, it just didn't look like a game from that era.
I remember, like it happened yesterday, how amazed I was, how good looking the stuff was. Basically, the overall feeling of it, it was so deep somehow. The nebulas, you know, if you look back now, they were not really that great. We've done a lot of improvements. But at that time, it was just so deep and immersive. It hadn't been launched already then, so I was just seeing what the guys were working on, and I was currently working in my own company. I thought I would definitely want to work with those guys, and that's exactly what happened.
And even ourselves were kind of blown away when we all saw it come together. And when we took that to E3 and we showed screenshots from the game, nobody believed these were screenshots from an actual game that existed in 2002. It's a little bit like I guess a symphony effect. When it all comes to unison, it's a totally different feeling. And EVE is a game about the context you're doing things in, not so much concretely about what you're doing moment to moment. It was kind of a mixture of relief and excitement. We could all play it, we could all like see it functionally work and also sort of emotionally work. So it was like a great boost to morale because we had really been toiling away to get the game to that point. And that was the feeling where it's like, yep, it's gonna work. Now we just have to make sure it scales. Early 2003, we start kind of alpha and beta testing in earnest. We have done some closed alpha testing before that, but this is kind of when we're opening the doors. And we had a massive issue with server stability. What is the challenge with making a single-threaded MMO? Well, it's kind of server stability and performance. And we had massive issues running EVE Online on Pentium 3s on the back end.
There's a lot of different systems that have been kind of glued and duct taped together in various different ways. And back then, you didn't have the resources to be able to cover the overhead needed to constantly observe what's happening.
And we have this wonderful experience at the end of April 2003 called the Armageddon event, where we have like 160,000 people like run through a day playing the game, which was massive to us. I mean, we come from a country of 300,000 people. It was like half the population of Iceland was playing the game in a day. But like, it was a struggle. Like, I had to reboot the servers almost every hour. Like, we had to tweak and tune, and we were just like, okay, we're not ready for this. Then, due to the state of the internet at the time, we had made a publishing deal with a company called Simon & Schuster, which had an interactive games and software division. Simon & Schuster is mainly a book publisher. And they were going to distribute CDs, and that was going to be the distribution method. When we were doing the beta test, people downloaded the game from the website, but nobody really released the game like that. You had to have a game in a box and release it in a store. But Simon & Schuster earlier that year closes down their game publishing division. And they had made a distribution agreement with Vivendi. And there were about 30,000 boxes in channel, as it's said. So when we go from this kind of Armageddon event with 160,000 people melting down the servers and over to the released version of EVE Online, there were only 30,000 boxes in existence. And they were just in stores randomly around the world. So there was this interesting kind of ARG going on with EVE players of finding the boxes People were saying, hey, I found 5 boxes in Milwaukee. I'm gonna scratch the CD keys and send to you. So there is this period of like calm where we go from 160,000 people playing down to like 1,000 people playing while the boxes are being found. And that got us kind of wonderful air cover where we could patch up the servers to gradually grow up to 30,000. And then we were able to make a deal with Salman & Schuster to buy back the publishing rights. On the 3rd of December 2003, we opened up a download, and then people start to come in waves. But there was this period for the first 6 months when it went from like 1,000 people playing to like 30,000 people playing, or like 28,500 was it actually. We didn't find all the boxes. Still some boxes just lost in the wild, which interestingly made that kind of a golden cohort for EVE that then became the foundation for all the alliances and the kind of social intrigues in the beginning. So when people were joining post that event, they were joining some kind of social infrastructure that had some time to develop. EVE Online comes online in 2003, 6th of May, and we've been chasing its tail ever since.
EVE Online, I mean, you know, it's of biblical scale. You know, there are multiple types of MMOs, and we pride ourselves to be a sandbox game and one of few proper sandbox games. We have a massive sandbox, and we provide the tools for the players to build their own castles, write their own stories, and create their own reality. But just like real life, it's complex. There's a lot of tools, there are a lot of possibilities. And you can actually, you know, you can become almost whatever you want in EVE Online. Outside that, we kind of, you know, we set some basic rules, some basic parameters, but we allow players to move quite freely in those parameters.
A lot of people call EVE complex. I usually call it dense. There's just a lot there. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's a sandbox. It's basically people who want to be space lords or live out a fantasy of exploring space and those types of things, and appreciate the details that go into all of that kind of work, whether it's the bureaucracy or the technicalities on, you know, how many bullets do I need for this, or what size are those bullets versus what size of the ship that I'm going on, the preparation mechanisms for it. There's a lot of different personalities that range that play EVE Online in general.
So we provide players with these tools, and we see players build, you know, communities. We call kind of the base community a corporation, and then corporations can put together into alliances, and these can span tens of thousands of players. And through these corporations and alliances, players can claim space and build up infrastructure and really kind of carve out a home in this epic universe. The world is a little dark, you know, it's a little harsh at times. So it really helps grouping up to solve the challenges that the world creates. And of course, every time you have multiple people coming together, you're destined to have some conflicts. Because at the end of the day, EVE Online is very much about humans dealing with humans. And usually humans are quite irrational, and they do things their own way, and there's always someone that doesn't like it. So we have escalations of tens, even hundreds of thousands of people shooting each other in the face.
It's super inspiring for me to see the game in motion and what comes out of it. We put these assets in there, and then we see all this artwork emerging, these giant battles, and it's just like a canvas. It's like an abstract painting, really. I believe the art has a huge impact in drawing people to EVE. Because there's so much to explore, right? And you can get people hooked in on the looks of things. I mean, I just love flying around, and there's a lot of people who fly around and just look at EVE for the beauty of it.
Many assets in EVE have gotten more and more complex to create. For example, in the beginning when I was starting there, the poly limit was very low, and there were no animations, effects were limited, there were no skins, and the ship didn't look that great. Well, at that time they looked great, but if you look back, they really didn't. Now, I think the animations and doing the effects that fits the animations on the ship is what I like basically most to do. You can do some really stunning things.
Sometimes just by walking to work, you walk by the harbor, you see some pieces that are used in the shipping industry that can be appealing. You look at a car engine, that can be appealing. You can even find nice looking textures just by walking in an old neighborhood and taking pictures of simple wall. As an artist, if I can convey some idea in a believable and super cool way to the players, then I'm super happy.
Years back, we introduced like what we call the spline traffic, and it's just little glow lights that are flowing around the stations. And I remember people going, oh, but there's no model, there's no 3D object on it, right? It's just like a glow light that's traveling on. And that's fine because of the scale of it. It's just like it's a small transport vessel for an individual that's living in there, or something along those lines. And just this little life, it just gave so much. It's like, you know, looking at the city from an airplane and you see the car traffic. It's kind of simulating that. But things like this kind of breathe life to the assets. We usually kind of try to have like a maintenance job, like redesigning ships or kind of just upping the quality. But it is daunting because we want to update so much more content, right? And there is so much more we want to do with it. You know, we have so many ships, and like all ships are ×4 because we have the 4 main empires, right? The vast scale of it is problematic for a team of our size. Yeah, that's it's a very tough one.
It's over 7,000 systems. These systems are like multiple light years across. Traveling from one corner of space into the next corner of space can take hours to do. Since it was first launched in 2003, it's been in continuous development. And throughout that time, we've of course added content for players to consume, but also we've also added a lot of tools for players to create their own content or provide content to others through mining for resources to build, you know, better ships or better structures for your empire, or if it's to take down someone else's achievements. The quote-unquote content, the areas of interest and focus, a lot of them are created and generated by the players and built by the players. Yeah, EVE Online without its players is a very lonely place.
In the beginning, that was the game we wanted to make. And it also was the game we were kind of forced to make, because a game that has more control built into it just takes more time to build. Giving this much work and control over to the player base was in part just a way for 30 people to make EVE Online in 3 years. We had conversations about X, Y, and Z happening, and we had conversations about like so many things happening. But when it goes from theory to practice, it is just very different when it actually happens. And there are nuances to how it happens, the impact that it has on the people involved and on us that you couldn't really anticipate. So we just have to lean into it a lot more. But I've definitely seen, we have had people come into CCP and be uncomfortable with it. And not necessarily always for the wrong reasons. This kind of structure and freedom is a balancing act.
It sort of doesn't matter what you do. Someone is happy, someone is not happy. You know, it just depends on game style. It would also be a lot easier if everyone played the game the same way. If you play FPSs, everyone plays it more or less the same. It's maybe different. Some is a sniper and all that stuff, but the goal of the game, the mechanic of the game is basically the same. Run around and shoot people or camp and shoot people. In EVE, there are so many different kinds of gameplays and so many different ways people play the game, and there is real economy as well. So you as a miner, it's not only like if I make the pirate's life easier to actually capture you, you are not going to be happy. But also if we are making changes to the economy of the world, the resource distribution of the world, it's going to affect people. Some people are going to be affected in a positive way, and other people are going to be affected in a negative way.
So one of the core principles of EVE is that loss has meaning. Like everything that you build can be lost, and when it's lost, it's gone forever. That is a key component in, of course, the economy, and it's a key component in building a community, but it's also a key component in the sandbox itself. It makes wars more meaningful, it makes interactions more meaningful because you've taken something away from someone else. Giving loss to someone, that kind of very dramatic thing to do. That in many ways is such a key driver in the motivation for people to stay and kind of really get their revenge. I mean, this isn't necessarily a new concept. It's been a concept that's been around for a very, very, very long time.
Ground crew.
There have been books written about this for hundreds, thousands of years. But it is a very scary and daunting task, not knowing kind of when that marketable moment comes.
It's always challenging to have to take what players do, because players are often surprising us. As the game grew, the complexity of player stories increased, and the different regions started to take on their own character. So there would be players building their empires in different parts of EVE, and those would become the stories of those areas. And then you would have the great wars that developed over the lifetime of EVE. For a lot of players, they just want to purely create their own stories in the pure sandbox, and that's great. Some players like to create a story that is a combination of their story and, for instance, a particular empire. The lore of EVE Online has always been very responsive to what players do in the game. A lot regarding the factions, the explicit NPC factions of EVE, has been shaped by players. In many ways, everything that players do in the game is canon.
One of the things that we strive for is that the world creates as epic stories as the players do. And we've done pretty epic storylines that have spanned, a few years, where players have had a lot of input into the progression of the story. And we see that with the Triglavian invasion, for instance. When we started setting up that storyline, we had a general idea how it would conclude, but the steps to conclude it, we were not sure what they would be. We were not sure which systems, would fall to this new race that the Triglavians are. And we weren't sure how many systems they would take over. We kind of left that up to the engine and then the players and their actions. And they were actually very dramatic strategic points, breaking up the environment of EVE forever.
Despite intense resistance, Edencom and allied Capsuleers ultimately failed to prevent the Triglavians from completely overrunning the system.
Taking their actions and turning that into a narrative that works in the storyline of EVE Online, it's surprisingly easy sometimes. In fact, it's quite a lot of the time, because a lot of the players are very invested in being part of the storyline. One player story that was quite surprising was there was a player group that reacted to a storyline we ran, the Drifters, which was a new kind of faction that we introduced to the game. The Drifters were very mysterious, intentionally, never spoke, and a player group decided that they would roleplay performing an autopsy on the corpse of Drifter, and produced a very detailed, highly technical document going through all the stages of running this autopsy. It was a little bit surprising, but it was an example of kind of the commitment that a lot of players have to engaging very deeply with the lore. In the end, we weaved that into a scope video that we do. Scope videos are fictional news videos. Although that was bizarre, it was something we were able to integrate quite well in the end.
Noted by Doctors Anslo Tetua and Mizir Starsurge was the odd absence of vocal cords and abnormal blood composition.
The most complex thing about working on EVE Online specifically, I'm tempted to say humans. If you look back at when EVE Online came out, they were pioneering a lot of things. Like, they basically started solving everything with hammer and Cat5 cable. Fast forward 20 years later, the landscape has radically changed. So I played EVE for 5 years before I joined CCP Games. And like, as an engineer, I was like, well, how does this work? How does this work? And then I got here and I went, how does this work? As a fan of sci-fi, I always found it like a trope of, it's this arcane technology that nobody knows how it works. I'm like, that would never happen. And then I came here and I'm like, yeah, that would totally happen. Because we find all of this really old software that nobody really knows how it works anymore. And when they built it, they didn't have the same tooling that we have now. And so as we're retrofitting a lot of this legacy code with newer tool sets, we can see how it's working. And there's a lot of things where we hook it up and we're like, I'm sorry, it does what? I don't know, it'd be like going back in time and you travel back in time with an MRI machine. You're like, nope, this is what's wrong with your head.
With any product that's been out for this long, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. And there are a lot of features in EVE that were the best idea at the moment they were written. I oftentimes have to remind developers and players that when the game came out in 2003, like the min spec was a 36.6 kilobit modem, which is ridiculously slow. It is ridiculously slow. You know, the iPhone came out in 2007. So when the iPhone came out, like this whole notion of UX like changed overnight. So there have been major challenges kind of as technology advances and as new best practices come to light. You know, how do we adapt and how quickly can we adapt? For instance, right now, we're completely rethinking how we do UI and UX and how we author it and how we build it. It's a very big and dramatic change because we're changing interaction that has been, in some cases, the same for 19 years. How do you kind of inject new while still maintaining all this heritage that you've built? I oftentimes compare EVE Online to some of the, you know, the small houses in downtown Reykjavik, where you basically have a house that was originally built in the 1880s or 1910 or something. But over the years, you know, the windows have been changed, the roof has been changed a couple of times, and the cladding has been kind of spruced up, it's been painted. And all of a sudden you stop and you look at it and you notice like the house, it's a brand new house, but the chimney is still there. Like that's still original. That's kind of the backbone. That is the kind of the structural, the main structural element. That's the DNA of the house, and that still remains. And that kind of keeps the house up, and that keeps the flavor and the sense of the house. And EVE Online in many ways is like that. Like the DNA, the core spine is still there, even if features have been exchanged, they've been updated, they've been completely swapped out. So EVE Online in 2003 and EVE Online 2023, it's not one-to-one, but you know, the essence is still there.
The game is kind of like a living piece of art. And I mean, unfortunately, or it's even just reasonably, like sometimes when new developers are coming to CCP, we don't always have all the documentation for all the feature set because it would just like drive you crazy to maintain all that. For a game that is so big, sometimes the reference material is the game itself, is players analyzing systems of the game, it's like YouTube tutorial videos, often from players. The documentation is something that players have created because the features of the game also exist in generations of different implementations. It is kind of this large sort of community creation. The game is concretely alive because of the community, but the game is also living on because the community does a lot to just document what's happening, what the interplay of systems are, etc. EVE does not function in the absence of a community playing it. That is the blood in the system. That is what keeps it alive.
You can't buy this. You cannot put a game out today and have all these stories, all these events, all these people, which have basically become the history of the game, the lore of the game. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, we actually have like books written about it. You need to run a game for decades for that to happen. I mean, the biggest, earliest things I remember in the game is, of course, the heist. That was a big event.
In early 2006, there's a heist. Somebody had built up a corporation of like 500 people, which was quite big back then, and he had run away with the money.
Just to let you all know, yes, it was a scam. Sorry about that.
There was an uproar of like, CCP has to undo it. 500 people have now lost all their money, which had obviously transfer value into reality through real money trading websites. So it, to some effectiveness, was real money. And some guy lied and cheated and took all the money and ran away. But we kind of consider it and we can't really intervene because the guy just broke trust. He didn't like hack the client or did anything. The game is about that. It's not on us to assure that people are honest.
You know, I pay for this game. I'll play it how I want to play it. I haven't broken any rules. I'm taking your money off you. You give it to me. I didn't hack your accounts and take it. You handed it to me. And now it's mine. And there's nothing you can do about it.
So we make a ruling we're not going to intervene. No rules were really broken, and all the people left. They were like extremely disappointed. We lost 500 players, and like we are even more up in arms. No, this was the wrong call, and blah blah blah. But earlier that year, there's an article in PC Gamer magazine about 2004 heist, and 5,000 people joined because they want to live in a world where anything is allowed. So that was the first example where stories from the player base became the most important way to promote what the game is about.
You everyone, good night.
There is never a dull moment. We're either like reacting to something players did, or we're trying to create more content for the players, and you sort of become a custodian of this universe that so many people care a lot about. The big one will probably be Goons versus Bob. I really liked that war because there was like pure hate, which made it interesting to watch from the outside. There was just so much passion in it.
Okay, say something fun to Goons.
Die. For a while, I was a little bit opposed to player gatherings. I used to run around the office and say, why are we hosting these peace meetings? These people drink beer together, they socialize together, and you know, next time around, I really don't want to take your stuff. You know, you're kind of a nice guy. I had a few beers with you, you know, a couple of months back. If you're gonna have a really good war, you really have to seriously dislike your enemy.
I just love it. I think it's absolutely fabulous to see thousands of players just meet in space with all those ships that we have created, doing their thing and being so passionate about it. It's just makes me every time so happy. It's just awesome.
There is a very romantic idea of EVE Online out there. Players kind of see this as this evil, daunting, backstabbing, dystopian cesspit. And then they come in and they quickly realize that, like, yeah, I'm gonna be shot in the face. But that shot in the face usually is followed by a message like, hey, do you understand why you died? And it's at that moment when people like realize the beauty of EVE. And even if the world can be quite dark, there is hope. One of my favorite player stories is about Katja Sai, the first pilot that managed to visit every system in EVE without losing a ship. It's an epic achievement. It's over 7,000 systems. There is something about kind of, you know, nothing's impossible. Everything can be achieved. You just gotta put your head into it and we can conquer the impossible.
Yeah, what a moment. Like, that's just amazing. So we created like a statue for that. Seen so much cool stuff like the cemetery, for example. The players had a place within EVE where they would go to remember their fallen friends. So we want to kind of, this deserves like a real statue, a memorial site. So we went through designing a monument for that. You know, and then there is artists like Lloyd George that are painting our ships, and it's like kind of gone the whole circle. You know, we design the ships, goes into game, and then it's an artwork again. It's amazing, and just like the passion of the players, which can be quite scary sometimes as well.
It used to surprise me, but I've now become quite accustomed to it. I think it can be quite surprising to some of the developers, and certainly the efforts to which players will go to kind of hive mind what the answers to the story might be, what the solutions to some of the really puzzling mysteries might be. The one thing that does quite often surprise me is how rapidly players come up with the right answer, even though we're not ready to release the right answer to them. So that's sometimes surprising.
EVE players are as different as their name. It's really easy to kind of put them all into a box and say, EVE is about A, B, or C. But what we've seen throughout the years is that, you know, you have artists that play EVE, you know, that are just almost building sculptures in the game. That being, you know, placing structures perfectly, you know, around the moon, or building a cube of corpses as a sculpture in space. Then you have, you know, of course, militias and combat-driven players, and then industrial corporations. So the game becomes what you want it to become. And, you know, one group saying you played it wrong, and the other one as well. The third game kind of happens at that intersection.
It's interesting to hear EVE players talk about one another because they'll use the word content about what they do. Like, they are the content, basically. I grew up like playing Quake and, you know, doing IPX lands for Duke Nukem back in the day. Like that's what I grew up playing. And then to suddenly switch into this world of people are not playing games to be competitive or to win, they're just playing to connect with other people. When I first got in EVE, I'm like, I want to murder everyone. And then I also like would watch the other side of the spectrum that play EVE, where it's just like, people are mining asteroids. I'm like, that looks so boring. And I ended up, jumping on, I think it was TeamSpeak at the time. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a try, see what it's all about. And what I immediately figured out is basically everyone is half lit in the mining fleet. I'm just like, oh, this is basically people's pub. And it took me a while to figure out that social context of the game.
It gives me feelings that make me work on it for all this time. I worked on EVE Online for 22 years. I'm not like super hands-on involved in EVE Online, so like I was at the beginning. But EVE Online occupies a lot of my day still, and a lot of my kind of mind space. And it is due to the fact that what makes me work on it for 22 years is what makes people play it for 19 years.
So I make like these scope videos, and I see a lot of people comment there, almost on every video. I don't play the game, but I also just find it so fascinating that they actually follow the scope videos without playing the game, which is just crazy. Of course, we've been in mainstream media when something ridiculous happens that become like some massive wars and stuff like that. So yes, a lot of EVE spills out into the real world, and a lot of people sort of read the stories to come out and all that, but for some reason do not participate in it, which is still fascinating. Even people who have never played the game have followed it for for years. I mean, I don't know of any other game that comes to mind where this is happening.
I think many realize that the game is big and wide and dramatic and expansive, but I don't think anyone fully grasps the true scale of it, because one is kind of the gigabytes on your hard drive, but in reality it's every single person that touches the game. That's the scale of the game. It's all these emotions, all these stories, and like majority of the stories I have no idea about. Like there's a lot of stories that have never been documented. Someone passing away or going, out of the way to help someone to get to a certain location or achieve a goal. In some ways, it's actually endlessly big.
In the very early days, there's a point in time when I was kind of playing with this sort of high-sec, small empire mining corporation, anonymously. And it's kind of older guys. Like the leader of the corporation, he had the issue that his grandkid was always pulling the modem plug, and they're kind of learning through experience the actual social dynamic of mining. Then it becomes more like fishing. Like we were kind of just guys by a river fishing and just talking about things. And one guy had the thorax and he was kind of logging off. So I'm like, hey, if you're logging off, I could borrow your thorax and I could mine more, because mining in my Tristan is only so effective. But if you're logging off, I could use your thorax to mine. It's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I have to drop off some stuff. Okay, I'll just follow you there. So I follow him so far away. He gives me the thorax and logs off. And I make an autopilot path to where we're mining. And then I go to the toilet. And then I come back. And I see the pod on the screen with the meaning of, I really lost the spaceship that I just borrowed from my E-friend, that I broke the thrust off. And then I'm looking at that, I remember I'm staring, I can remember everything around the room. I had a CRT monitor, watching this, this is all collapsing on me. And then I think wait a minute, I'm the CTO, I could just make another ship. And then I become disappointed in myself for cheating or thinking about cheating in the game. And how is that cheating, really? And then it is really cheating. And it feels like this sort of test from the universe. Okay, well, I have to make do with what I have, so I take the pod, go back, get Tristan, start mining to mine back the thorax to pay my E-friend back for having lost this ship. So there's a period of time where I am sitting there at the computer, conflicted. Should I work on developing EVE Online, fix bugs and whatnot here in Visual Studio on this screen? Or should I mine here to make do on my promise to my E-friend to give back his thorax, which is the right thing to do. So I kind of do a bit of both. But that was kind of an experience where kind of this element of like the world is real became very sort of vividly clear to me.
The beauty of EVE is about these player interactions. I mean, there's a lot of sessions in EVE that are run single player. But what's really interesting, just with humans in general, is that we really enjoy stories. We really enjoy storytelling. And we're so geared into this idea of finding a story in everything. Like, people will read into everything. People love to share stories about reality when they were, went on that holiday or got really drunk and stood on a table and sang Total Eclipse of the Heart. I mean, that's what people love. So the stories that people create in EVE, I mean, they might be a little bit more fantastical, but they're still real.
Throughout the years, I interviewed a lot of people at FanFest. I asked people one question, and I asked the question, what is EVE? It's just super difficult to answer that question. It is a universe on its own, definitely. Are you a pirate, are you a miner, are you doing missions, are you doing hacking sites, are you an explorer? That sort of is up to you. Some people play more of the social game. They are either like prefer being in corporations and even in the big coalitions, which are like, factions up to 10, 15,000 people fighting each other, like in each faction. Then you have some of the power players who actually run those factions, and they hardly ever log into the game. Their whole gameplay happens outside of the client. So it's extremely difficult to say what specific loop in the game or specific gameplay or something. It's just totally up to you.
It just never gets old talking to them about their experience. It's just such a wonderful thing how we can be looking at the same thing, this game, and see it very differently. The game is just so varied. There are so many ways to play it. It offers so many different experiences.
There are many in here that view EVE almost more like an art piece. It's a thing of beauty. You can't contain it. You can't kind of grasp it and take hold of it and control it. It will always kind of break free and become what it wants to be. We have big ideas and we have a path for it, but it will, dig its own trends and find its own path. It's a very scary thing. It's a very scary thing not fully knowing, the route that the players will take, or the player stories that they write, with the big wars and the epic achievements. We have no idea if a war breaks out tomorrow, a month from now, or a year from now. When developers from other companies talk with me, and that's like the one thing they're the most interested in. Like, how do we sleep at night, not knowing if the game is going to blow up tomorrow or not? But I don't know, maybe we're just silly Icelanders living on a volcanic rock in the North Atlantic, not knowing if a volcano will, wipe the city out tomorrow or not. So maybe that's it. Maybe something else.
What gets me the most excited about EVE Online is to find another unlock for the game to grow into the third decade, which is an extremely unprecedented concept. To reconcile the legacy of the game, its legendary status, changes in expectations from people on what the game should be, the fact that generations of developers have worked on it. It's over 1,000 people that have worked on EVE Online. They've each left their mark, and there's a lot of good things, half-finished things that need improvement. It is a big challenge to get this ecosystem to go through the next phase of growth.
I get the question a lot, if I feel like a god. My own answer is always no. I feel more like a janitor. I don't know everything, and it's impossible to know everything. It can be very humbling to work on EVE, and you have to eat your hat quite frequently.
But that's just exciting, not knowing everything on that. It's the people I work with that keeps it flowing, They have this fire in them, and that kind of just spreads through the other people, and it's my second family, really.
I mean, it's just far from being over. EVE just sticks around. And I think it's because of different activities and also it's a game that is interesting to master. And I think that's, you know, the same reason why I'm still here at this company. In my job, I've just moved around doing different things, and players need, you know, once you get bored with some particular activity, you just figure out how to do the next one, do that for a while. And it sort of just goes around and around and around.
A lot of what we're doing is just catching up. In order for Eve to go on for another decade, it needs to be able to fundamentally change. If we don't change the way we work, then we won't be able to fundamentally change Eve.
Over the past few years, we have been focusing a lot on the fundamentals. We're doing all this foundational work. It's not very visible to players, but we're now getting kind of out of the woods. And now we're sort of getting to the time where we start to build on top of those stronger foundations.
This is a marathon, this is not a sprint. There aren't that many other games that have lasted this long, and certainly there are not that many games that have gone into these deep foundational investments. But we do it because our goal is that Eve will outlive us all, and we're the shepherds of the game right now, and someone else will pick up where we leave when the time comes.
I don't really know. I don't really think about it much. It's just, okay, here's the next challenge. How do we overcome that? And then another exciting one comes along. Okay, how do we overcome that? So it's more about taking it on as it arrives and kind of in this general direction of having it go on forever. So I don't really think of there doesn't seem to be an end state. I haven't found the end boss of EVE Online where I feel like I've done all I can do in my contributions to this experiment. We always kind of had this joke that it couldn't be done. It's just a lot of game. This was completely unprecedented. And when you're doing something that nobody has done before, you always have the anxiety of, well, maybe there's a reason nobody has done it. Maybe it just can't be done. When your plan is to go to the moon and nobody has gone to the moon. When you actually go there and you land on the moon, that's when you kind of get the moment of yeah, okay. But you don't believe it until it happens.
So today I want to talk about the future of Elite Dangerous, where I think it's going, what I think Frontier is going to do, and the possibility of a sequel. Now before we could dive into Elite Dangerous itself and what I think will happen to the game, we unfortunately need to talk finances, as I think this is going to be a majority factor for what Frontier is going to do in the next coming years. You see, Frontier is in a bit of a rough spot right now. Taking a look at their stock price, since their all-time high on January 15, 2021, they've lost almost 93% of their market value. Now, I don't care what kind of company you're running or what you're doing. If you're a publicly traded company that loses 93% of your market value in just a few years, something's going to change. Something's not going according to plan. Looking at the latest financial report, we can see that their 2023 financial year had an operating loss of £26 million, and last year they only barely made a profit. Taking a quick look at their cash balance, it seems like they can survive another year like this before the bank accounts are empty. What does all this mean for Elite Dangerous? If I was in Frontier's place, to be honest, I wouldn't be focusing on Elite. If you ask me personally, I would love it. I hope they will, and I wish they would. But I also have to be a little realistic. If you look at where Frontier is right now, and if I were in their place, I probably wouldn't be focusing too much on Elite either, as much as I would want them to. What I think Frontier needs to do, and what I also think that they will do, is they need to get back to basic. They need to focus on the games that they know they're good at, and that they have had success with in the past. I'm not saying that Elite Dangerous wasn't a success, it actually has been. It's been not the most, but one of the most profitable games for Frontier so far. Now, we know from the original Kickstarter for Elite Dangerous that Frontier said they had a 10-year plan for Elite Dangerous. The game came out in 2014, so if that is true, well, we are reaching the end of that 10-year plan. Personally, I don't think you can make a plan that far out into the future. And they have also a quote from their latest financial report where they say, and I quote, "After nearly 10 years since the first public beta, we have greatly exceeded the original vision for the game." Now, that's true. They have greatly exceeded what originally was planned for the game. There might also be a few things left out from what was originally planned for the game. And especially with this quote, it doesn't sound like someone that's looking forward. It's always looking back, looking to the past. And that's not something you would usually do if you have lots and lots of plans for a game going forward. Does this mean that they will pull the plug on Elite? No, absolutely. I don't think so. I think it's very, very unlikely that we're going to see a server shutdown for Elite Dangerous. The server is going to be online for years and years to come. I see no reason why Frontier would pull the plug on those. Right now they're running this Aftermath story with the Thargoids. They've been doing that for quite a while. That's probably going to continue the rest of this year, maybe into the beginning of next year as well. After that, I can see them doing one or two things. Either they put Elite Dangerous into maintenance mode, they'll keep the servers online, they might do the odd community goal here and there, but we're not going to see any updates, we're not going to see more bug fixes. There might be security updates if security vulnerabilities are spotted, but that's about it. The other option is that whole feature overhaul that they have now been talking about for years. They told us last that they would give us more information at the end of this year, and we'll see if they do. And everybody's been speculating what this feature overhaul is. We don't know. We only know that there is a feature overhaul of some major feature in the game that they have been working on. Whether that has been scrapped or whether they're still working on it, we don't really know. Speculations are that it is either engineering, because a few years back there was this engineering feedback thread they did where they asked a lot of different questions about what people thought about engineering. So at least at that point I think that they thought about making an engineering overhaul. The other one that has been often mentioned is power play, as it's a very underutilized feature in the game that hasn't seen any changes since it was originally introduced at all, been a complete abandoned feature, so that would be a natural candidate also to get an overhaul and maybe to try to get some people engaged in power play as well. Those are the two ones that's likely, if they are going down that route with a feature overhaul, I think it's going to be one of those two. But as I said, they have told us they would give us more information at the end of the year. That doesn't mean they're going to tell us what the feature overhaul is. More information can also be, we are not doing it, we're going into maintenance. Now, while all of this can sound dark and gloomy and grim, I think it's really important to separate Elite Dangerous and the Elite franchise as a whole. So while I agree that Elite Dangerous is in a bit of a rough spot right now, the Elite franchise is doing well, probably as well as it ever has. For newer players who may not know, Elite Dangerous is actually the fourth game in the whole Elite series of game. First one came out in 1984, just called Elite. followed by Elite 2 in 1993 and Elite 3 First Encounter in 1995. And then of course finally the latest installment, Elite 4, also named Elite Dangerous, in 2014. And especially with Elite Dangerous here, it really helped put like space sim games on the more public radar. A lot more people are aware of the space sim and the space gaming genre thanks to Elite Dangerous. And that's also why I think that despite the decline we're seeing in interest and player numbers for Elite Dangerous, should Frontier come out and announce a new game, a 5th Elite game, I'm absolutely sure that a very large portion of that player base is going to return back and begin playing the new game if and when it came out. So of course the big question is when? When should we expect to see a sequel to Elite Dangerous? Because I have no doubt that Frontier is going to keep the Elite franchise and they're going to keep working with it in the future. If we assume that Frontier is going into maintenance mode with Elite Dangerous in 2024, they will probably spend, I would guess, 2 years to try to get the company back on track. After that, we're at 2026. I could see them start work on a new Elite game. Probably behind the scenes, you won't really hear anything at that point, but begin the initial discussions, the initial designs, beginning to get some code done. I could see that happening in 2026. 2027 will be around the time when I would expect that we hear the first news of the game. They will go out, they will officially announce it. Probably not with a release day at that point, but at least announce that they are working on a 5th Elite game. And then in 2028 would then be my expected year for a release of the game. It gives them about 2 years to develop the game from initial ideas and designs until finished game, which is about the same time they used when they originally launched Elite Dangerous. In terms of features in the game, it's very hard to guess on something this far into the future, but a no-brainer would probably be to go and take a look at what people liked from Elite Dangerous and what people were really asking for in Elite Dangerous, and try to implement that in now that you are designing a new game from scratch. So ship interiors would very likely be there. I would also expect that we will see more landable planets than compared to what we've seen in Elite Dangerous. But again, this is all just guesswork. So what I really want you to take away from this video is that while Elite might be on a decline right now, I'm pretty sure that Elite franchise is as healthy as ever. And in 5-6 years time, we might see a sequel. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'm completely off, or if you think I have some merit to my little analysis here. Comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in space.
Elite Dangerous, a game we've journeyed with for years. It stands at a crossroads. Looking towards the game's future feels rather uncertain to me, and Frontier's echoing silence on the matter really has me wondering why and exactly what is going on. Now, I touched on this subject in the previous video about Frontier's 2023 financials. However, I feel that there were a lot of things that were left unsaid regarding Elite in that video. Ultimately, Frontier clearly needs to make a decision about the game's future, so here's a deeper look at that. Previously then, I said that I personally suspect that Frontier will, to all intents and purposes, put Elite into maintenance mode during 2024. That means whilst the servers will keep running, Frontier will no longer issue updates to the game beyond security fixes. There's a lot of different reasons I believe this, and we'll dive into those later in the video. I also have a bunch more data available that I didn't have for the other video, so we're going to look at that too. For now though, I want to be clear that all of this is just my opinion. I'm not 100% convinced that any of this is accurate, and I might very well be entirely wrong. So with that in mind, here's a few other ways that things might play out. And whilst I'm at it, why not let me know in the comment section if you have any theories on what Frontier are planning. Okay, so the past few years since Odyssey's release, Frontier have released regular updates for Elite. We're currently up to update 17, which is set to be released very soon, in October in fact, and we know that an update 18 will be coming shortly after that. It's entirely possible that Frontier will continue on this trend, releasing 2 or 3 updates in 2024 and then maybe even beyond. The ongoing Thargoid war has been a massive focus for Elite, and the trailer for Update 17 seems to show that this trend is going to continue, at least for now. Update 17, certainly Thargoid focused. Update 18, we don't yet know. The bottom line, either way, is that Elite has a massive galaxy with a lot of rich lore to draw upon. If Frontier were to choose to continue with regular updates, well, they would certainly have plenty of potential content to draw from, wouldn't they? Another option for Frontier beyond that is to announce a new expansion for Elite. Let me know how likely you feel this option is. Theoretically, what type of expansion would you like to see the most if this were to happen? Mine, as many of you will probably know, would be a full Earth-like world, similar to what we see in other modern space games such as Starfield and Star Citizen. So that's another option, a potential expansion. Unfortunately, Frontier's financial report didn't give any hints that anything of that magnitude of such an Elite expansion is actually in the works. In fact, the report seemed to suggest that, well, the complete opposite actually. Frontier have confirmed they're continuing to work on licensed IPs such as F1 or Warhammer. They've also confirmed that they have some more management titles in the works for 2025 and 2026, likely along the lines of the series Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo. Yet there's no hint whatsoever that Elite is going to get another expansion. But that said, back in early 2018, there wasn't any hints that Frontier were about to start working on an expansion then either. Yet, in the middle of 2018, they announced they had begun work on the new era for Elite. So whilst it seemed unlikely to me that an expansion is going to happen, it remains a possibility nonetheless. Now, the third option that Frontier have regarding Elite is the one I feel least likely, and that is to pull the plug, to close down the servers and call it a day. Now, years ago, it was widely reported that Frontier had a 10-year plan for Elite, and you'll often find that people claim that David Braben himself cited this 10-year plan. Elite was released way back in December 2014. That gives it one more year until it reaches the end of that 10-year window. Now, some people do believe this, but personally I believe there's many flaws with that reasoning. Not least, well, here's a few actually. Firstly, Frontier never specifically released or revealed a 10-year plan. Secondly, even if they did, well, things change. And third, Elite still has an active and engaged player base who really enjoy the game. Although, I guess that said, the fact people play the game, if it's not in significant numbers, doesn't mean that Frontier will keep it going. But I mean, let's be realistic here. Whether it is a fact that people do still enjoy it, so no, I don't see Frontier closing the Elite servers. Yet I'd be remiss not to at least mention this potential option, however unlikely it actually is. Now, the fourth option is the one I feel is most likely, and that is Frontier start winding down the development of Elite and keep the servers running for many years to come. We just don't get any more updates beyond security fixes. Now, if this is the route Frontier go, maybe they will announce it in the not too distant future, or maybe, as they have done many times in the past, they will go radio silent and leave people guessing. Either way, there's a lot of reasons I believe Frontier will slow or maybe even stop the ongoing development of Elite. In fact, there's plenty of evidence to suggest why this might be the case, whereas there's little to no evidence to support any of the other options that I've already discussed. So let's go through a few of these reasons with some of the data and some of the so-called evidence that we've actually got. And this starts with Frontier's presentation on their latest financial report for 2023. Included in that presentation was a graph showing the revenue for all of their games. From this graph, it's very clear that Elite has generated a lot of revenue for Frontier. Keep in mind that this is cumulative revenue, so that means that the amount of money these games have taken overall, and that's before costs or any outflow of cash, so any other factors that might affect the revenue here or the profit. But whichever way you cut it, this is clearly a lot of revenue going on here. And this fact alone is very likely why Frontier have said in their financial report that they consider the space game genre to be one of their core business pillars. They very clearly stated this in their financial report, you can see that quoted here. However, it doesn't automatically follow that this means Elite Dangerous will continue to be a core pillar going into the future. Making that assumption is a leap based on hope rather than information. Now, it's certainly tempting to look at this revenue graph and then assume everything with Elite is rosy. However, if we take only the revenue for Elite and ignore the other games here, then convert that into a bar graph, we get this. And this chart paints a very clear picture, doesn't it? The revenue for Elite in recent times has shown a sharp decline. 2022 was already the lowest year on record for Elite in terms of revenue, and 2023 is far lower still. Although to be fair here, from what I can tell at least, the chart for 2023 represents 8 months of revenue, so naturally it will be lower. However, taking the trends for 2023 so far, and then, well, the predicted revenue for the full year of 2023 is looking like it will still be lower than 2022. So it seems to be there's no denying the fact here that the revenue for Elite year on year is certainly decreasing. Keep in mind though, as I've said before in other videos, I'm not a financial advisor or a financial analyst. Do keep that in mind. So that means I'm not making any claims about the accuracy of what I'm telling you or showing you here. Do keep that in mind, as I say. Now, sticking with financial information for the moment, here is another graph. This one comes from Frontier's interim results for 2023, which means Frontier's results for the first half of 2023, I do believe. This particular graph doesn't show cumulative revenue like the other graph. Instead, this graph shows a positive cash flow, which means how much cash the game has generated after all associated outflows of cash have been accounted for. Basically, how much money the game has made, how much money is left over after all other factors are accounted for. So this graph seems to highlight that in 2022, Elite didn't generate much positive cash flow at all. In fact, it seems to suggest that the game barely broke even. That's not a good business model for Frontier by any means. It's not a good business model for any game, and that means that Frontier could make a very strong case for not funding Elite further into the future. Meanwhile, if we look away from financial data and look towards player numbers, these show the same story, a decrease. We've looked at Steam charts in the past. However, here I've taken the data from Steam charts and converted it into a line graph. Again, the picture is very clear here. In terms of player numbers on Steam charts, Elite is at an historical low. They just keep going down. There's a slight spike in September, but we'll have to see if the game maintains that. Now, of course, this data does come with the usual caveats that not everyone plays on Steam. However, as we have seen before, Steam charts do indeed highlight player trends. Talking of trends, this other graph here, this data is from Google Trends. This shows the global volume of web searches for the term Elite Dangerous between the dates 16th of December 2014, when Elite launched, right up to today. This chart aligns pretty neatly with the data from Steam charts, as well as Elite's revenue, the data that's been provided by Frontier. So all of the different data points really do seem to align with each other, and they all show a decrease. Beyond that though, I'm not going to try and interpret any of the data. Data is, well, data, and people should draw their own conclusions from it. The above numbers are not the only thing, however, that has seen a reduction. Remember that the official Elite Dangerous live streams from the Frontier community team now only take place on a monthly basis. Additionally, the number of posts from the community team on the forums have continued to decline. Both of these seem to suggest a decline in involvement in Elite from the Frontier community management team. Okay, so that's all the information out of the way, all the data that we have right up to now. At this point, and as usual, I feel the need to say that me pointing out this data isn't a case of me being negative, and it certainly isn't me hating on the game. Elite has meant a lot to me over the years, just as it has to a lot of other people. The game has provided a lot of good times that simply couldn't have been had in any other game. Elite Dangerous, after all, is very unique and provides a lot of unique gameplay, a lot of great experiences. Regardless of how we feel about Elite, how much we might love it, how much we might not like it, none of that should blind us to the data and the current data trends. So just because the game has been enjoyed in the past, it doesn't automatically follow that there can't be questions about the game's future. It doesn't mean that pointing out these data points is a negative action or trying to hate on Frontier, and it doesn't mean that we don't like the game. Nothing in this video is a reflection about the quality of Elite in any way. I'm purely and simply asking questions about what Frontier intend to do with Elite from next year onwards. Now, my takeaway from all of this is that Frontier are at a point with Elite where they need to make a decision on its future. What that decision will be, we have no way of knowing yet, at least not until they let us know. We can speculate, we can guess, but at this point we simply don't have what we simply don't know. For now though, the good news is that there are 2 more updates to look forward to. Update 17, which is right around the corner, and update 18 as well. Do let me know what you feel about all of this data and all of this information I've presented in this video. What do you think it suggests about the future of Elite Dangerous? Or do you think all this information has no bearing at all on what Frontier may or may not decide for the game going forward? Or perhaps you feel that there's no need to raise any of these questions anyway. What will be, it will be. Do let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.
Even if your team's not in the same place, your work can be. You just need Asana. Asana organizes work, so teams know what to do.
All year, all I've been hearing was that Starfield was it. Instant game of the year. Even after we got banger after banger, all I heard was that all roads led to Starfield. No matter how good Zelda was, no matter how amazing of an experience Baldur's Gate 3 was, none of it would compare to the glory of Starfield. It was gonna be a game that every gamer would get lost in. And the pitch was simple, guys. Starfield was essentially going to be Skyrim in the stars. And when I heard that, thus began my own preparation. The night before its launch, I bid my loved ones farewell, because the next day, I would embark on the greatest adventure in all of gaming, that being Starfield. What did I actually experience? Nothing close to that. Guys, forget Game of the Year. This game has been painfully mid on every level. If this game somehow gets nominated for Game of the Year, I'm gonna completely lose faith in the system. And if by some miracle, Starfield wins Game of the Year, that's it, guys. I'm retiring. I'm out of gaming, man. I just have no place here. To my editors, you have the YouTube channel, and I guess my Twitch channel will just give it a less. But after spending so many hours in this game, guys, there is no way in hell Starfield is remotely in the same conversation as some of the Game of the Year contenders as of now. Now understand, guys, I have nothing personal against Bethesda or Starfield. On the contrary, I grew up playing Oblivion. I fell in love with Skyrim. I got completely burnt by Fallout 76, but that's whatever. It happens. We got over it. But what I do have a problem with is the countless comments leading up to the launch of Starfield that this game will wipe out the competition. And I was actually gonna go on my way. I wasn't gonna put out this review, but that same comment kept smacking me in the face while I was streaming this game, every time I looked on Twitter, or whatever the hell we call that site now. Regardless, everywhere I looked, I still saw those same comments. And I feel morally obligated at this point to set the record straight, to not lead gamers astray. So for those folks, I kindly ask that you take the next 10 minutes and open thy assholes and allow me to insert my opinion. Now, I don't want this video to be spoiler heavy, but I did finish the game and we did New Game Plus, and before somebody asks, oh, you just did the main storyline? No, I did your side quests as well. With that being said though, we get some of the basics out of the way.
Okay, this is a video people have been spamming for me to watch. Like, it's been crazy you guys wanted to watch this for such a long time. Now, I am not a Destiny player. I have never played Destiny. I've watched people play Destiny. I have a very basic understanding of Destiny, but that's it.
October 13th, we'll see the return of Test to the Tower. Silver is a new currency coming to Destiny that is bought with real money.
Ooh.
This is the introduction of microtransactions into Destiny, but I've never had a problem with cosmetic microtransactions. A lot of people will now mention the slippery slope argument. Yes, Dado, we start with shaders, emblems, emotes, but who is to say that they won't introduce materials, armor, or weapons in the future? If we see legendary guns for sale, if we see legendary marks for sale, I'm gonna be mad. If we see something like 100 motes of light for $5, I'm gonna be mad. I don't wanna see power sold, I don't wanna see shortcuts to power sold, nothing. I don't wanna see weapon parts, ammo synths, nothing. If Bungie does cross that line, you have my ring.
What can we do for you, Commander?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Guys, I hate to say it, but now may be the time to start raging. Now, I'm gonna preface this by saying, no, this is not a joke video. When it comes to greedy corporate monetization practices, to us, this is really not a laughing matter. Those clips you just watched are from a 7-year-old video Dado posted in Destiny 1 about a month after the release of The Taken King, and my god, it has aged like fine wine. Today, we're talking about the state of microtransactions inside of Destiny 2, because over the last several years, and increasingly this past year, we've seen a dramatic increase in monetization for anything and everything Bungie can slap behind a paywall. This includes raising prices, creating new avenues for spending, double dipping into the existing player base, and giving players blatant pay-to-win benefits. Now here are the timestamps on the screen.
Oh, so it is pay to win. Oh, that sucks. Now it is? Damn, that sucks. Wow.
For each topic covered in this video. This is going to be a long one, so grab your popcorn. And one thing I ask before you leave a comment criticizing or even defending Bungie, please watch this video in its entirety. We're going to cover a lot of ground today because I want all of us here to have a full perspective on how bad microtransactions have become over the past 7 years. And maybe by the end of this video, when all Bungie schemes are on the table, you will share my concern for what this game may look like 7 years in the future. Now, first off, I want to set the record straight. Destiny 2 is not a free-to-play game. It's a free-to-try game. It's very important we are all on the same page here, because this is the most common justification for the use of microtransactions across the industry. And the biggest illusion Bungie tries to spin in their marketing. Microtransactions in real free-to-play content makes perfect sense. If you're not paying...
You have to have microtransactions if it's free-to-play. I mean, how else would you make money?
To purchase the actual software, then the developers are completely justified in generating revenue using other means. Usually, this is just in the form of cosmetic items that players purchase for digital fashion, fun, or even clout. But developers can also use more shady techniques like loot boxes, bonuses, or even additional content to persuade players to spend more money. With that being said, Destiny, even after becoming free-to-play in 2019, has never actually been free-to-play. Matter of fact, Sweatcicle even made a video a couple weeks ago documenting the experience of a free-to-play player in Destiny, which I highly recommend giving a watch. In a nutshell, after completing the introduction quests and missions, free-to-play players can access Strikes, Crucible, Gambits, Prophecy Dungeon, Vault of Glass, King's Fall, Open World, and Dares of Eternity. On the surface, that actually seems like a decent amount of free content. But
yeah, if I just heard that, I guess somebody who didn't play the game, like, that seems like it's a lot of stuff you can do as free-to-play.
But is it actually? Compared to the massive amount of content in Destiny, this is just a fraction of what the majority of players have access to. You don't even get a campaign in free-to-play. You get rituals, quests, and a couple of high-end activities. Let's compare this to some other free-to-play games, shall we? Starting with arguably the most popular free-to-play game, Fortnite. There are plenty of microtransactions in Fortnite, but all of them are strictly for cosmetics. Even the seasonal battle pass, which you can pay for, is earnable via just playing the game. Granted, that would take a while. The free version of the battle pass gives you V-Bucks that you can save up to buy the paid version. And as long as you play enough to complete the battle pass each season, you can earn enough to repurchase it again next season. 100% completely free. There's even some currency left over you can choose to save or even spend in the shop.
I feel like most people are positive about the Fortnite battle passes.
You want to buy some cosmetics. Next up, we have Warframe. Yes, I know comparing Destiny and Warframe is kind of a touchy subject, but Warframe is also a free-to-play game. The 9-week Battle Pass is completely free. The updates are free, and you can earn the paid currency in the game's player-driven market. So it too is essentially free. Now, these are just two prime examples, and I could dive into more, but I think you get the point. These games grant you access to all the actual gameplay content for free. In Destiny, you get maybe 10% of the content for free, which means this is not exactly free to play. That's a free trial. Destiny is by no means the first to do it though. Remember the light versions of apps back in the early days of iPhone?
It's like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. You can play part of the game free to play, but you have to pay for the other part.
Every major game had a free light version, essentially a demo. Angry Birds Lite, Minecraft Lite, Light Bike Lite. I don't have a problem with free trials, but free trial and free to play have been commingled so much that players can't differentiate between the two. Another common trait of free trials is that they're full of ads. As a new Light player, the number of pop-ups you receive in game telling you to buy more content is ludicrous. Don't be fooled.
Wait, are all of these like
you receive in game?
Do you actually go through every single one of these ads? Oh my god, this is like watching Twitch.
telling you to buy more content is ludicrous. Don't be fooled. Bungie offers a free trial of Destiny 2, and if you want to play the full version, you have to pay money. Lots and lots of money. Now, Destiny 2 has a lot of paid content.
By the way, I like, my personal perspective on this is that if you buy a game once, if you're getting content after that game comes out, like continuously developed content, like a live service content, I think it's fair for a game to charge microtransactions at that point because it's being developed beyond what the thing that you bought was. I think that's very fair. However, I think that having like a subscription and also having microtransactions is a bit much, kind of like how WoW and Final Fantasy have. But at the end of the day, I don't really mind microtransactions as long as they don't affect gameplay. I do mind them, but they're not a, like, I realize that like my perspective on that is like very, very niche. Like, I don't think most people care. And I also can, in my mind, pay to win and pay for convenience are the same thing. Because whenever you make a game pay for convenience, the game becomes inconvenient. And then the people that don't play with the convenience measures that they pay for are playing the game at a disadvantage.
But quite frankly, it's confusing as hell. You got the Lightfall plus annual pass, or Lightfall by itself, the Legacy Collection, which includes Witch Queen, Beyond Light, and Shadowkeep, the 30th Anniversary Pack, Witch Queen, Beyond Light separately, as well as Shadowkeep separately, the Forsaken Pack, and the Armory Collection, which includes both Forsaken and the 30th Anniversary Pack. There's
That's a lot of things to buy. People also said with PoE, I'm making an exception for PoE. I don't really think that PoE is that much pay to win. I think you can make a dictionary definition argument that PoE is pay to win, but I think in doing so you dilute the term. So, like, the reason why I don't think that PoE is pay to win is because, in the same way that these other games are, is that they are one-time payments, and the sum of those one-time payments is equivalent to effectively a new game. So I don't find it to be a problem. Because with the other pay for convenience features, they're like, skip your daily today, and you can do that every day. With PoE, you don't need to buy a new currency stash tab every day.
Many different bundles for old content. And quite frankly, this is absurd. I have so many people that come into the stream that ask, which one do I buy? And quite frankly, how in the hell is someone new to the game supposed to navigate all of this? Now here's a novel idea. Why don't Bungie just bundle everything? Literally, just the everything bundle. All content through the year of Lightfall, or the Lightfall plus annual pass, or the legacy content bundle, which includes all those old things that tends to confuse the piss out.
This is a problem that World of Warcraft used to have, that you had to buy all the expansions. They absolutely should condense this.
And everyone. Now, if you need to itemize old expansions for players who want to purchase a single piece of content, that's fine. But even this list is already so much simpler than what Bungie already offers. Then you may be asking, why does this not exist already? Spoiler alerts, there's no singular bundle for all of old Destiny content because Bungie refuses to improve the new player experience.
And this is just going to kill the game. Because eventually nobody wants to have to spend $25. This is like, what the fuck is this? This is awful for new players. Yeah, it's like, I see this, and I immediately am like, oh, I don't want to play Destiny. This is stupid. And it's not even about the money. It's about the annoyance of it. It's just fucking annoying.
For the sake of decreased revenue. If they care more about the player base and the extra cash, they would bundle all the old content under one single legacy content bundle.
Which is what World of Warcraft did.
And diming new players. Now, why is the Forsaken Pack, a bundle containing a raid, a dungeon, and some exotic weapons and armor still even a thing? It also used to contain 9 supers for each light subclass as well, and those were added into free-to-play because locking supers behind paywalls was stupid, and what remains is what new players are still paying for. Now, why was the 30th anniversary update even a separate paid add-on in the first place? Remember when Bungie updated the game with cool
I would shit on them for that, but Blizzard did the same thing with the 20th anniversary or 15th, whatever it was, anniversary. It's like, let's celebrate our anniversary by having you give us more money.
content for free. Some new players might not remember, but the April update in Destiny 1 was a free update to the game that increased light level, added a new story mission, quests, revamps of both strikes, updates to the Prison of Elders, chroma gear for custom armor glows, a new taken set of armor, reprised exotics, and legendary weapons. All of this for free. It was like a mini expansion that we got as a gift from Bungie. Fast forward a year ago, if you didn't pre-order the deluxe edition of Witch Queen, you had to dish out $25 to get access to things like the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, Gjallarhorn, and a bunch of cosmetics. Yes, there were parts of this update that were free, like Dares of Eternity, which is a completely new activity, and I understand that a lot of developer work went into creating.
Dude, this is like, I feel like whenever he's explaining like how you have to buy this stuff, it's like somebody explaining like how a currency system works in a gacha game. Well, so, okay, so you have, like, the credits, and then so you have the credits, and then you can use the credits to upgrade your character, but you also need the upgrade tokens that you need for the character, but there's, like, 3 different levels of the upgrade tokens, so you have to upgrade your characters with, again, the credits and the upgrade tokens, but then there's also the third thing, which is, like, the items that you need from the home world of those characters, and then those also have 3 different levels, and so you have to level those up, and then also, like, whenever you level those up, so there's a thing that you have to level up whenever you do level up as well, and so you have to use those as well, which costs more credits, and in order to get the credits, you have to do these things called like these, you know, different like missions, and then if you want to do the missions more, then you have to buy crystals, but if you don't have crystals, then you can buy crystals with the shards, and so you can buy shards to buy crystals, to do the mission, to buy the credits, to use the credits, to buy more credits, to spend the credits, to get the items. Oh, and the items are different for every character, by the way. Yeah, so like if you get items from one character, it doesn't work anymore.
These. But I bring this up to draw a comparison of how things used to be 7 years ago. The reality is, if the 30th anniversary update was released in Destiny 1, we would have received it completely free.
They're taking money. Uh-oh.
Now, the 30th anniversary update was also the tipping point that introduced dungeon keys to Destiny 2. These have got to be one of the most divisive double-dipping additions to the game ever made. For those of you who don't know, dungeon keys were added in the Witch Queen. Bungie releases 2 dungeons each year, and if you don't buy the deluxe edition, that being the expansion plus annual pass, you also have to buy these separately. Both dungeons are sold together for 2,000 silver. This is Bungie's in-game currency, which equates to $20. No longer are dungeons included in seasonal content, which made a lot of us scratch our heads asking
so you have to...
What the hell, Bungie? This only makes paying for content more confusing, and we know it to be a...
This is crazy. I feel like this game has more microtransactions than Tower of Fantasy did. This is nuts. I feel like, you know, the reason why I didn't play Final Fantasy 14 for like a month is because I couldn't figure out how to buy the game. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. Like, it was complicated. I think I bought 2 versions of it. I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, why are they doing this? Like, it's so weird.
Fact from first-hand experience. One of our part-time editors bought Season of the Deep to play the dungeon and didn't realize Ghost of the Deep was not in...
So, you need to buy... So you buy the expansion, so you... It's like you're paying for cover at a club, so you can go inside of the club and pay $17 for shots. Well, actually, I guess in this case it's 20. Holy fuck, man!
Included in Season of the Deep, meaning he had to go buy the dungeon key after buying the season to play what he actually wanted to play. If one of us can make that mistake, how much easier is it for a new player who has never played Destiny to make that mistake as well? The title for the dungeon trailer on YouTube even suggests that it's included with the Season of the Deep. You will only find out otherwise if you read through Bungie's website, or visit the activity directly, or visit the last page in the Eververse store, which we know a decent portion of new players will not know how to do.
Yeah, how is a new player gonna understand this at all? This is awful. No return on investment.
Okay, so dungeons no longer ship alongside seasonal content. Surely the price of seasons deserve to be lower, right? No.
How could I have ever predicted such a dramatic change in events?
Bungie raised the price of seasonal content. If you want to buy a season by itself, it used to cost only $10. And honestly, for 6 weeks of story, some cool cutscenes, access to the multiplayer activities and new gear, I would have argued that it was a great deal. But then, Bungie increased the price. And you know what? Fair enough. Adjust for inflation, gotta put food on the table. It makes sense. Bungie announced in a tweet they were increasing the price of seasons from 1,000 silver to 1,200 silver, which puts us at $10 a season to now 12.
And I think that would be fine, but like how many of the, like, yes, things go up in price over time. That's life. Every game exists in this in this world, right? But like, dang, just wait. Oh.
$10 per season, or does it? You see, when you buy silver, Bungie gives you a little extra for each purchase, and the bigger the purchase, the more extra you get. So when you buy $10 worth of silver, that being 1,000, you actually get 1,100 silver. That's so generous of them. Funny how that works too, because that's just short of the amount needed to buy a new expansion. So to buy an individual season, you need to purchase $15 worth of silver, not 12. Meaning Bungie actually raised the price.
It's 1,200, but you only get 11. That's clever. That is real. That's really clever. Damn. That's a good. Bro, they really got him with this one, huh? That's smart.
You need to purchase $15 worth of silver, not 12. Meaning Bungie actually raised the price by $5. Because you can't buy seasons with real money. You have to buy them with Bungie's tokens. They're fake money. Now I'm surprised too.
Wait, so you can't just buy them? You can't just buy them on the store? So you have to buy them with their currency. But the currency model is set up in a way. Oh, that is so cute. Oh, wow. That is something special. That, guys, you know, there's a certain part of that, like, whenever I hear that, I'm impressed. That's clever. You really got him that time, you know?
How cluttered the Steam store is already with expansions, which, by the way, you can buy with real money.
Wait, somebody says this isn't even their final form. Look at this. What the fuck is this? Oh my god.
Why not just add each season there too? Make an annual season pack? Hell, folks are already confused. You might as well add it. Something tells me we won't ever see a $12 silver purchase option anytime soon. Luckily, Bungie added the $15 option right before Season of the Deep, and even created a $100 silver purchase option too. So if you want to bankroll their pockets even more, that's
you just spend $100. That way you can buy the next 10 dungeons, and you can save money by spending $100 now.
a lot easier for you. And
but the funny thing is, probably by the time that 10th dungeon comes out, they'll have increased the price again, so you've got to spend another $100. And then you just repeat the process. Oh, it's only 5, excuse me.
Guess what? You thought a $5 increase was bad? Let's take a trip down to the Microsoft and Epic Game Store, where there is no $15 silver option. The next highest is $20. You're now paying Bungie double the price for a new season. Guys, that's just borderline evil. Thankfully, any players who use these platforms are not completely screwed. Bungie does offer a $15 seasonal silver bundle as well, but not only is it separate from the other silver purchase options, it also doesn't advertise how much silver it gives. You actually have to click into it to see how much silver you are buying. But hey, it comes with the free emotes. Am I right? I do want to be clear. I'm not against silver existing or people buying silver. I've bought plenty of silver. I'll even meet Bungie halfway. I'm not against paying $12 for a season, but it's these shady, scummy, underhanded tactics that Bungie keeps using that pisses me off. Bungie, if you're gonna raise the price of a season to $15, at least have the balls to just tell us straight. I shouldn't need to perform mental gymnastics to decipher a
Yeah, I feel like if they just said it's $15 now, I think it's worse that they said it's 12, but you can only buy 11 or 15. Because they could have just been like, yeah, it's $15 now, it is what it is, inflation's a bitch, fuck Brandon. Like, and like everybody be like, you know, whatever. but like, it's like they think you're stupid, you know?
Change in pricing structure like it's a day one raid encounter. It's not the price increase that rubs me wrong. It's how Bungie intentionally designed it to siphon more money while deceiving the community into thinking it was less.
Right. Cache of Osiris. Wait, wasn't that one of the raids?
Alright, so video has been pretty tame up until now. That's all going to change when we talk about seasonal events and event cards. Event cards are the singular worst paid item ever added to Destiny.
Oh no, I played Lost Ark, bro. Like, this shit's already giving me PTSD.
Last year, Bungie had the idea to add event cards to Destiny. These are filled with event challenges that grant you materials, event cosmetics, weapons, etc. This card was introduced as Bungie's solution to simplify in-game events, making it easier for players to reference what they needed to do to earn more.
Oh my god, bro, like this game, like, am I just, like, is it just me, or does playing this game, like, I feel like I want to lay down. Like, this is complicated, like, just to be able to play the video game.
Rewards and complete the event time. Their solution, plaster a giant pay to unlock button on the front of the event card to earn more rewards. You heard me right, you have to pay 1,000 silver, $10 for the privilege of completing challenges so you can earn these extra rewards. It's essentially a mini battle pass that is already inside.
So it's a... Yo, dog. We put a battle pass inside your battle pass so you can work on the battle pass while you do your battle pass. What is this?
Of a seasonal battle pass model. If you don't complete the challenges, you don't get any rewards. And even worse, players often don't know that it only gives you 4 cosmetics. All the others on the card are free. This microtransaction is positioned strategically where all players interact with event challenges, because if you don't buy it immediately, Bungie wants you to stare at it for 3 weeks while you finish all your other challenges, slowly seducing you to part with $10 for a couple extra cosmetics. But Cross, it's only cosmetics. What's the big deal? That is the big deal. Events in Destiny 2 are only about cosmetics, and over 90% of the cosmetics you have to pay for. Surprise! Just like dungeons, seasonal events are not included in your seasonal pass.
I mean, I don't give a fuck about the cosmetic, like this stuff like that. It's dumb, but like, that's not what's gonna make me quit a game. I mean, god damn, man.
Purchase. You want to know why everyone thinks events are boring? It's because they are rehashed every year, and they revolve around spending money. Every new armor set, $10. New emotes, $10. Ghost shells, ghost projections, finishers, the list goes on. Money, money, money. It's so bad that Festival of the Lost has eternally been dubbed Festival of the Costs. Why would I want to participate in events where I get one gun and have nothing else meaningful to work towards? Normally, I have zero problem with paying for cosmetics, because cosmetics are just the extra cherry on top. I already pay for my content, and if I want to spend a little more, that's my choice. The problem with events is the cosmetics are the content. It's all over the marketing. It's in the silver shop. It's on.
Don't people, like, this is what happened with WoW, right? Is like, I feel like once a game has so many cosmetics in it, it just kind of loses its, like there's like 5,000 cosmetics. What's 5,001? It's like a diminishing return.
My event challenge card. Events became unfun a long time ago because the content came second to the cosmetics. Yes, it is possible for cosmetic microtransactions to ruin video games. Just look at Halo Infinite. Part of the reason why it was received so poorly, beside the lack of co-op and mediocre campaign, was because all avenues of customization were locked behind paywalls. This was always one.
Remember back in the day, whenever you saw somebody with the Hayubasa armor, remember that shit? Oh my god, back in Halo 3. Oh man, that was a big dick set of gear. You knew it.
One of Halo's greatest strengths. The Master Chief Collection on Steam still has free live service seasonal content. You purchase the game once, get to play some of the best games ever made by Bungie and 343, and visual progression is alive and well, unhindered by microtransaction hell. Best $40 I've ever spent. Even less when it goes on sale. Events have become just another way, though, to squeeze more money and double dip into the player base in preparation for the next season, and it just keeps getting worse. Is Bungie in the moral wrong for promoting more cosmetics cosmetics during an event? No. Do I have the right to call events in Destiny boring and being mid as hell? Because
Yes.
there is little to
Of
no
course.
loot tied to them that you can actually earn. Yes, we do have that right. And because events are quote unquote free to all players, there is zero monetary incentive for Bungie to spend time on anything more than creating the most attractive Destiny shopping mall for 3 weeks. I would love for Bungie to prove me wrong on
Yeah,
this.
that's what the issue is that whenever everything is built around the cosmetics, it's like the game is designed in a way to make you look at cosmetics. That's it. It's like the game is like a fucking, everything in the game is like a bunch of neon arrows pointing at cosmetics.
Because I like the idea of events. They're supposed to be fun, but there's nothing fun to do during those 3 weeks unless you like spending more money. The way you fix events in Destiny is by investing in the player experience. Supremacy
So
during
that's not gonna
Guardian games
happen.
is a great first step, but that existed as a base game mode in Destiny 1. So we really can't give brownie points here for something Bungie gave back to us from 6 years ago. Provide players who don't want to spend money, meaningful gameplay or rewards for their time, and then we'll revisit this topic. Now this next gripe is more of a PSA. Do I have anything against paid cosmetics existing in Destiny? No. However, I don't know if you...
I wish they weren't. Like, I wish you could just buy a fucking game. Like Elden Ring, you just buy the fucking game, that's it.
been paying attention, but the cost for everything in Eververse store is insane. $15 per armor set.
So it's a 1-to-1, right? So this is 15 bucks? Yeah, this is a lot of fucking money.
Exotic emotes can get as high as $12 each, exotic ornaments $6 each, and this all adds up very quickly, especially if you want to get one thing per character. The most recent price hike we've seen has been the collaboration armor sets. These started with the Epic Games collab during Season of the Plunder and have stayed consistent with every collab since. Assassin's
Well,
Creed.
yeah, because like now Overwatch is doing the mythic skins as well. So like now it's not enough for there to be a battle pass. Now there has to be a premium battle pass and a super premium battle pass. And now it's not enough for there to be a skin. There has to be legendary skins and mythic skins.
PlayStation. All of these armor sets cost 2,000 silver each. That's $20 for one set of armor. All of Destiny 1's DLCs included was on sale for just $20 just a few weeks ago. There's no universe where you can convince me that 3 armor sets cost $60 total, one for each class, by the way, and somehow that is worth the same price as a AAA game. Now, will people buy them?
That's why they do that. Because like think about it, you put in 1% of the effort and you get the exact same amount of money.
Obviously, yes. Will Bungie make lots of money? Yeah. Are we getting ripped off? You damn right. This isn't just Bungie doing this though. This is basically industry standard. In-game cosmetics are beyond expensive. It's your money, so spend it how you deem fit. But I figured while we're on the subject, I should make you doubly aware that everything in Eververse is very expensive and dare I say,
How much money would it take to buy every single thing in the Bungie store and for Destiny? Right now, if you went into it, what would be the amount of money? $8,000. More? 10 to 15K. Holy fuck.
dramatically overpriced. Now, Bungie is constantly devising methods to make you spend more money in-game, whether you're a hardcore player or even free-to-play. The constant scheming never ends. In addition to everything we've previously mentioned, this season, Bungie added an Eververse recommended tab to the store, so you can find offers made just for you more easily. Earlier this year, Bungie added the ability
Diablo has this too.
To purchase weapon ornaments on actual weapons in-game. Now, I will admit, this is convenient if you want to view what your flashy exotic would look like with the new paint job. But this is also an obvious play to reduce the distance between the player and the purchase button. You cannot preview armor ornaments.
Can you get cool cosmetics from like beating the raids in this game though? That are like equivalent to how cool this stuff is? Okay, well that's fine.
with shaders before you buy them. You have to purchase the armor, then you can see if that matches your look. If any of you remember, shaders used to cost 40 bright dust from Eververse. And if you're unfamiliar with bright dust, it's an in-game currency that you can't buy, but you can only spend on specific items in the Eververse store. It's designed to keep players engaged with the store, even if they haven't spent any money, in the hopes that they will spend money.
Yeah, this is a super popular thing that a lot of games do, is they have a free-to-play currency that you can only use on the store function. That way people get into the habit of going to the store. Lost Ark does this with Una's shop. It's a really good idea. Or Mary's shop, sorry.
In the future. Anyway, Bungie raised the price of shaders from 40 to 300 bright dust, solely because they wanted to. Just another sink for bright dust, so you have less free money for armor, emotes, or anything else you want to buy. And they've also started locking shaders behind paid bundles too. And normally shaders would be frequently available for bright dust at the beginning of each season. Guys, it has been barely 3 weeks since the Season of the Deep launch at the time of this video, and no new shaders have been sold. Now, if you like ghost projections, don't take offense to what I'm
Frameshift drive charging.
November. Station services are prepped for your arrival. Greetings, Commander. Request approved. Vector for approach to landing pad 40. Maintain current heading until further instruction. Automated docking assist is now in progress.